Hello and welcome to the latest Sheldon Bosley Night podcast, SBK Unplugged. My name's Kate Gould and I'm the host of the show. Today I'm with James Morton, who's our Director of Residential Sales and Marketing. Welcome, James. It's lovely to have you in the studio today. Once again, I'd like to say a big thank you to One Mill Street for hosting us in their amazing studio. Thank you very much. So, James, all things residential sales today. There's a lot to talk about. For example, the market, what's going on with the market at the moment, any trends. It's been quite a turbulent couple of years. Also, I would like to ask you a bit about what you look for when you're recruiting, because obviously you're in charge of the teams. A bit about what sellers can do to choose an agent, if there are any top tips, because there are quite a few agents out there, what sets us apart from everybody else. And also buyers, what they should do to be in pole position, if you like, to get that dream house that they want. And then maybe if you're able to put it in your crystal ball and just give us an idea of what the market might hold for this year. Obviously, we've got a general election coming up probably towards the back end of the year, and whether that might have any impact on the market. But I'd like to kick off things by asking a bit more about you. And I know that you've been at SBK for a few years now, but it would be nice to know a bit more about how you got into the property sector. What was it that you thought, oh, this is the career for me? And then a bit about your route into SBK. So yeah, tell me a bit how you got into the sector.
Okay, well, I suppose like many estate agents, I'm going to hold my hand up and say I kind of fell into property. Went to university, did a degree in design and qualified as a designer, and then worked in a design practice for 2 years. And over the time, it just wasn't really scratching sort of an itch for me. And I was at home and someone said to me, well, why don't you try a estate agency? And gave me a copy of the Rugby Advertiser. I went through the job listings and I saw a job being advertised for a junior negotiator. I thought, right, let's have a go at this. So I got that job as the manager of that office, a chap that I still talk to now, a guy called Robert Eaton-Jones. He told me quite politely that I got the job because out of 23 people to apply, I was the one person that turned up in a suit. So excellent. That started my career in a estate agency. From there, I was with that business for a couple of years, and then I moved to Leamington Spa in 2005. And obviously a commute is a bit challenging. I identified a couple of brands that I really like the look of locally, made an application. I felt I was a senior negotiator at this point. Went for a few interviews and got a role working for a local competitor here in Leamington Spa. And really enjoyed my time there. You know, I spent 4 or 5 years with that particular business. And then along came a gentleman by the name of John Hamford, who ran a successful business in Leamington at the time, and was pestering me and harassing me for about 2 years to come and join his business. And one day I caved and I thought, do you know what, let's give it a go. Mm-hmm. So I joined John and his team, and I joined as a branch manager of an office in Leamington with a very large team. I think we had 8 residential salespeople, we had 5 lettings, 2 mortgage advisors, you know, a one-stop property shop, as we labelled ourselves. And I was there for 9-10 years. And then again, I had a calling. Someone approached me in relation to an opportunity that presented itself as a startup in the online agency field. And I joined an online agent as a regional director for this startup, and within 3 years we went from 0 to 5th largest listing agent in the UK. Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. I use the word listing agent delicately there. And then, interestingly, my daughter came along, Etta, and I can still remember the day today. It was Boxing Day. You know, Etta was 1.5, and given the nature of the beast that I was in, Boxing Day wasn't an off day. You know, It was a full-on at work day, and I was there on the phone trying to look at the staff, what they were doing, you know, who was in, who was out, what deals were coming through, you know, checking service level agreement, SLAs as we call them, very, very busy. And then this little 1-year-old came toddling over to me, put her hand on my phone and said, "Daddy, no." And I think that was the moment that life really sort of took a change for the better.
Yeah.
So I went back to work in January. I was thinking about it. In the end, I just said to the boss, "Look, I'm going to be leaving. Not for me." So I left that particular business, and in the interim, I've been talking to Mike from this business, and had some really interesting conversations. He already had a vision of what he wanted to achieve and where he wanted the business to be in a couple of years' time, and it sounded all very exciting. But even more exciting was the business was prepared to treat me like a grown-up and facilitate me spending more time with my daughter. Yeah. So, yeah, that was my route into agency. I'm quite fortunate because I've done the employed role. So I've been an employed agent. I've been a self-employed agent. That was interesting. I've been high street and I've been online. So I kind of tick most of the boxes in agency that you can tick. Yeah. But equally, I've only done it with, this is my 5th brand in over 2 decades worth of working as an estate agent. So I don't move around a lot. And
how long have you been with SBK now then?
Approaching 4 years. Yeah. I was one of their lockdown babies, should we say.
Oh, right.
Yeah. There was a few of us. Yeah, look, I mean, at the time, I can remember it was February the 11th. It was a Monday. I met Mike at a local drinking watering hole, as we'll call it, for a 3:00 meeting. We weren't in lockdown at the time, but we were, not far from it. And obviously I met with Mike, everything sounded entertaining and exciting. And then obviously lockdown happened. I was thinking, oh my goodness, what have I done? I've just quit a job. I'm going into lockdown and we're going to be locked in forever. But no, thankfully we did have that meeting. We continued having conversation. The business was very good with its communication whilst we were going through that process. And yeah, I joined just as we were heading out of lockdown version 1.
Right. And but Mike didn't choose you on the basis of which suit you were wearing?
No, thankfully not. Although I did dress to impress. It was a very nice tweedy sort of 3-piece suit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Natty.
Yeah.
So you've been with SBK now for 4 years. But what is it that you look for when new agents come into the business? What are you sort of looking for? Is it obviously not the suit that they're wearing, but what is it that they need to bring to the business in your view?
Ooh, what attributes do I look for? So it's really interesting because I've met some brilliant agents over the years, and a lot of the time their background is very, very similar. At a young age, they would have worked in a customer service industry, such as being a waiter or working behind a bar, or even working as a health professional within the NHS. Teachers make great estate agents also. What I tend to look for from someone who's coming into estate agency is attitude. Willingness to learn is really important because there is a lot to learn. And you can tell a lot by someone by their attitude. I rarely recruit from people that are sent to us via recruitment consultants. So if I was going to give a top tip to somebody about how do I get into estate agency is about being proactive. It's about, getting off the seat and doing something and creating activity. So do the same with your CV. If you're the sort of person that will just go to a recruiter and say, find me a job, you're probably not right for estate agency. But if you're the sort of person, and I met someone twice over the last 3 months, they've been into the office twice, and if ever I have a position, that would sort of fit for them, I think we would more than likely go with them. They've walked in twice with their CV saying, look, I'm still here. I really want to be an estate agent. So that's really important. Sort of attitude to proactiveness, attitude to learning, energy. Have energy. Bring the energy. You're going to work in a very closely knit team of people. if you're going to be in that sort of group environment, you have to bring high energy. I mean, you work with me. To be fair, I don't think there's ever a down day.
No, never.
No, so bring the energy, you know, and that's about it really. Everything else can be trained in. What I can't train is your attitude to work. You know, so just those three key elements for me are really, really important. You can normally see it as well when you're interviewing someone. They've got a spark or a dazzle in their eyes, you would say.
Yeah.
You can see that they're enthusiastic, they're engaged. Yeah, that would be that.
Yeah. Excellent. So anybody who's thinking about it, and at this time of year, we have a lot of schools that contact us saying, come to our careers events and talk about the business. That's what your advice would be, is to come with energy and ideas and being proactive.
Be proactive. Don't be the person that is just, you know, because when you do approach a recruiter, 9 times out of 10, they will do a blast and you're going to be one of 8 candidates on that sheet of paper. You know, make sure you stand out by going and finding out who you need to speak to, and then making sure that your CV is given to that person directly.
Yeah. Excellent advice there. And you've also got a bit of advice for sellers, because I suppose when people think of estate agency, they all think of the buying and selling of houses, and you know, we have presence on high street locations, and it's a bit more complicated, I guess, than that. But for sellers, what should they be looking for when they're thinking about putting their house on the market? What kind of agent should they choose? And what do you think Shelton Bosley Knight offers that perhaps their competitors don't? What sets us apart? So top tips for sellers, and then what they should look for.
Okay, so top tips for sellers when they're choosing an agent. Okay, so for me, it's the person you get along with the most. I mean, I always say to our listers, when we do lister training, you can have all of the skill in the world, you can have all of the tools at your disposal. If the person doesn't like you, they're not going to choose you. Okay, it's a people business. People buy people. The brand will get us through a door and get us the opportunity to present what we can do. But 9 times out of 10, it's the person that the client meets. There's an industry trainer called Richard Rawlings, and I'm going to use his labeling of this. My advice to sellers is beware the false prophets. These are the estate agents that will come out and guarantee you they will get you the highest possible value for your house. And interestingly, they also charge the least amount of money. And common practice or common sense dictates that the two very, very, very rarely go hand in hand. You know, when it comes to what you're paying, that is normally a reflection of the service that you will get or you will receive in both your marketing, the time that the team will spend with you, giving you advice and guidance. If you choose to pay not a lot, then you're not going to get a lot from that. Okay. So, you know, don't choose an agent based on what they've told you. You know, every seller and every agent should be able to justify using statistics what they're capable of. You know, so within Shelton Bosley Knight, you know, we constantly look at those numbers to make sure that our guys are armed with the right information. You know, what is their average asking price achieved? These are questions sellers should ask. What is your average asking price achieved? Okay. What percentage of your stock is reduced, or, you know, by how much as a percentage? Things like that are very good questions to ask. I can go out and tell anyone their £450,000 house is worth £500,000. The reality is I'm going to end up with a very disappointed client. The reason why Shelton Bosley Knight has such a high success selling rate is, unlike some estate agencies, we won't just tell a client what we think they want to hear. We're there as an advisory, we're there as a consultant. You know, we're there to make sure that what they're setting out to do is achievable with the least amount of stress. I've just sold my own house. Yeah.
Have you?
Took me 4 days. Yeah. Got nowhere to go. How did we achieve it? So the first thing we achieved was we did brilliant photographs. got the photographers round, we got brilliant photographs done. The second way we achieved it is, the team in Leamington understood every little detail about my house, my motivation, what made my house special in my
Yeah.
and what I was looking to sort of achieve from this. They understood it all really clearly.
Mm-hmm.
They then spoke to a handful of people that they knew fitted like a glove.
Yeah.
And they were absolutely on point. It was on the market on Friday at midday. I had viewings booked in by mid-afternoon on Friday. We did those viewings on Saturday and had offers on Tuesday from all parties that viewed the property.
Wow.
So, and that came down to brilliant estate agency, getting on the phone, not relying on the portals to do the job for us.
Yeah.
So again,
being proactive.
So again, when you're choosing an estate agent, ask them what their process is. Anyone can present a price, but it's a strategy to sell as well.
And I guess it's also a kind of, dare I say, therapy role as well, because you're there to hold people's hands throughout the process, because it can be quite stressful as well. So I guess there's an element of that as well, that you've got to, like you said, the agent you need to get on with. So you've got to trust your agent that they're going to hold your hand through the process when it gets stressful, when it gets difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it is stressful, and it's stressful because there are so many emotions at play. Very few people move because they just fancy a change. It's expensive. It is stressful. Most people move because they have a problem. And I label it as a problem, a bit of a strong word maybe, but the problem might be that, the garden's too big and they're now no longer able to look after it. The house is too small. They're expecting another child. It could be a couple that are separating. It could be a couple that are getting together. And this is where all these emotions come in. That's why it's stressful, because with these emotions are their dreams, their ambitions, their hopes. And you're right, the agent does have to be someone that holds their hand through a process. And every process is different.
Yeah.
I remember once, years ago, I dealt with a couple on Rushmore Street. They lived in a 2-bed Victorian house. They already had one child, and they were celebrating, understanding they were pregnant again with their second. Turns out it was triplets.
Oh my goodness.
So that was their problem. To label it like that. The estate agent is there to understand the problem and provide the right solution for that problem. Yeah.
Gosh, so it's a big responsibility, isn't it? And that must have been quite a thing. Go from 1 to 3 or 4 even. But you've also got tips for buyers as well, because in this kind of market, you've got a seller, but you're also going to be expecting buyers. So what can buyers do? What are your top tips for buyers to make sure they're in, if you like, pole position to get their dream home? Because despite the market uncertainty over the last couple of years, there are still plenty of buyers out there. They all want these houses or flats or whatever. So what can they do to make sure they get their dream home?
I label it as a passport to purchase. So a lot of buyers fall into the mistake of just sorting out a mortgage. There's a lot more to buying a house than just having the funds to do so. And we're seeing more and more houses go to best and final offer situations where it's competitive bidding. We've got multiple buyers given the lack of supply that's coming to the market at the moment. And 9 times out of 10, when buyers are presenting their offer to us, they haven't thought about the conveyancing side. That's part of this as well. They will need a legal representative to help them through the purchase process. So a passport to purchase really is, from a first time or any buyer's perspective, sort your mortgage out, make sure you understand absolutely the inside and outs of what product you're looking at. And the second part is get a solicitor in place. When you present your offer to an estate agent and you're competing against another buyer, if you've already got all of your, let's label it, ducks in a row, then you're a better buyer. You're more organised. It adds more confidence to a seller's decision than just someone who's turned up and said, I'd like to offer you X. Be prepared to purchase.
Yeah, very important. And particularly, I suppose, in a market such as it is at the moment, where there are perhaps more people putting their houses on, looking for houses rather than putting them on the market. The market itself has seen a little bit of turbulence over the last couple of years. I suppose fallout from COVID and then the mini budget that we had a couple of years ago. What is it like at the moment? How have we fared over the last couple of years? And in relation to our competitors, have we done better, or how things playing out for SBK at the moment?
I think we're weathering the storm really, really well. In fact, with our sort of connections that we have within the industry, we talk to agents locally, we talk to agents that are not locally, we know national agents that aren't on patch. How are you finding things? All these people we meet at networking events, everyone's kind of saying the same thing, and it's not to play up or play down the marketplace, but from Sheldon Bosley Knight's point of view, we recognised very early doors what was going on within a market. Months in advance of it happening, we were able to do so because of the vast experience that we have within our business, from people that work within our business, the guys at the coal face, boots on the ground. We invested heavily in marketing.
Mm-hmm.
You joined us. Rob joined us. Mm-hmm. We've expanded the business. Mm-hmm. We invested heavily in training as well. We looked at training. We've got a fantastic trainer, Joe, who now almost offers bespoke training within our business. Mm-hmm. If you're a branch manager within our business and you feel that you can make your gains via your team in a particular topic, such as, I don't know, securing more offers from less viewings, they will bring in Joe, and Joe will do a bespoke training for that mm-hmm. particular team, which is brilliant. Very few agents offer that. We've done actually quite well. We went on the offensive rather than taking a step back and watching and waiting for what the market was going to pan out like. Mm-hmm. The business decision was quite an aggressive one, in that we acquired multiple businesses, we expanded into new territories, we invested a lot of money in marketing. That's my fault. It all came good though. Yeah. It covered itself, and then some. We've invested in departments that many agents probably don't invest in, such as a full-blown marketing department with yourself, Rob, Amy, Vicky. We analysed opportunities that we were missing over the telephone, so we built the director's office. With a team there that if we can't get to the phone because we're having great conversation, they will. Mm-hmm. So we constantly look to improve our service, not necessarily just to ourselves, but most importantly to our clients. So yeah, we've bucked the trend, I think is the best way of saying this.
Yeah.
All the metrics are up.
Yeah. And so if you were to get your crystal ball out, what would you see for the year ahead? I'm interested to know, there's a general election being touted at some point, probably this year. They've suggested maybe the autumn. Does something like that have any impact on the market? We've just started meteorological spring. Is spring the right time to sell your house? Does the market pick up, if you like, during that time? Or is it just if people choose to move for whatever reason they choose to move?
I think in relation to the general election, historically, less stock comes to market in the run-up to a general election. Mm-hmm. Why does that happen? I blame us, the estate agents in the country. It's a bit like Christmas. We try and we go out and do all these appointments, but then we tell everyone to sell their house 3 months later when it's spring or when the going's good. So we kind of create our own peaks and our troughs, and I think a lot of it is down to mindset. People that need to sell will always need to sell, mm-hmm. and people that would like to sell may delay their decision. But I think I hear it every year, in all the companies I've ever worked at. You go out with a valuer and the client is the 5th of December and they're advising them to sell next year. And then everyone looks at each other and go, well, nothing's coming to the market. Yeah, no, because we're all telling everyone to do it next year.
Yeah.
So we kind of create our own marketplace in that respect. I think, look, from our point of view is the great thing about a run up to a general election is if there are all these other agents or all these other businesses saying don't sell till after the general election, our advice would be get it on the market now. There's less competition.
Yeah.
Buyers have less to choose from, which means you end up with more buyers on one property, which means that the value of that property through competitive bidding potentially goes up.
Yeah.
Or wait till after the general election when all the other 3-bed semis come on the market and buyers can go, well, if you don't tell me offer, I'll buy that one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think in answer to your question, it does slow things down, but that's our making as an industry rather than what's going on in the marketplace.
So a general election this autumn could represent quite good news for SBK because our agents will be out sort of really suggesting that people don't delay and do it now regardless.
Yeah, I mean, look, over the years, I've dealt with a lot of people that have said, oh, I missed the boat on that. I didn't sell at the right time.
Yeah.
There's never a right or a wrong time. I mean, look at my instance again.
Yeah.
I've sold. Were we looking to move? We were thinking about it. We saw a property and we thought we really like it. Hence the reason why we looked to move. There's no right or wrong time. I mean, my garden looks awful. Absolutely, it looks barren, even with fake grass. But it was the circumstance of what we'd seen that caused that movement, So yeah, look, there's never a right or a wrong time to move. It's down to everybody's individual circumstance and situation.
And do you think then that the market is looking, continue to look good for SBK this year?
As a business, yeah. Again, we've reinvested in more marketing. We've, again, reinvested in more training for the teams to make sure that the opportunities, if they are a little bit more scarce, we are giving the best advice and adding the best value to what we're talking to clients about. We're investing in new tech. We've built a photography department. So we've got in-house professional photographers now. Alison's just joined the team along with Jake. We're constantly looking for, I heard it today in one of the regional meetings, marginal gains. I call them tenths because I'm a F1 fan. We're constantly looking for those. Any slight improvement we can make only benefits the client.
Yeah, being proactive. So, James, your predictions then for this year, have you got any?
Ooh, let's have a think. So, this is something that's speculated a lot in the press. Okay. My predictions for this year are going to be in line with what we experienced last year. I think we're going to continue to see low stock levels. There's still lots of property coming on, but historically it's quite low. We've still got a huge appetite with purchasers. Got so many buyers registering. I think we registered over 1,200 buyers last month alone, and that was January.
Yeah.
And when I say registered buyers, I mean these are all new people we've never spoken to before.
But are all looking to move.
All looking to purchase. These are buyers.
Wow.
So I think it's a bit like a seesaw. It's supply and demand. With the lack of supply at one end and lots of demand, prices tend to go up. I'm not suggesting in any way, shape or form that prices are going to improve by 30% in the next 12 months. I think, again, there will be slight increments, 0.5s, 0.9s regionally. I don't think, unless the government has a different plan in relation to another mini budget that was so successful last time, I don't think that we'll see a decrease in value. At the moment, there's just not enough supply.
Yeah.
So I think for this year, I think it's going to be a repeat of last year. Low volume of stock across the country. High transaction levels, i.e., percentage of stock that comes to market selling, and more importantly, completing.
Yeah.
I think there was a report out the other day that said fall throughs, i.e. when a property has been sold to a buyer, a fall through is when halfway through that process, or at a point in that process, the buyer goes, do you know what? I'm not buying. They're down to 1 in 6. And historically, most agencies practice or work off 1 in 4. So people changing their mind about purchasing property because there's nothing out there. I can't find something at the moment.
Yeah.
I am scouring the internet, widening radiuses, just can't find a property to purchase.
Yeah.
But equally, given that the industry has probably been telling the public through the whole of November and December not to list now, do it in the spring, I'm optimistic that something's going to come along in the spring, which we're moving into.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to ask actually, does it annoy you when you see sort of press reports downplaying the market or making out that the market is in a state that it perhaps isn't in? Because you mentioned that we did all right last year. I mean, we're doing pretty well actually. But if you looked at the national press, the picture they paint has been one that's not quite so good, and that house prices have gone down and it's really difficult for first time buyers. And
it sells newspapers, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. Selling newspapers.
Yeah.
As a country, we're fascinated with property, more so than, most other countries. We're a country of people that want to have the ambition to own homes.
Yeah.
The press prey on this every year, every January, every February. They look for niggly little trends that indicate, they don't look at the whole picture of the year.
Yeah.
In relation to how do I find that? I find it frustrating because, it then makes the job of trying to navigate our clients through this white noise more difficult. Whenever I do an appointment with a client and they're looking to list their home, one of the questions I always ask right at the very start is, so what's your understanding of the local marketplace? And I could ask that same question 5 times in the same town, and I'd probably end up with 5 different answers, all dependent on where you source your information from.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. A lot of the time, look, last year we had a couple of newspapers present the argument that house prices were going to drop by 20%. Sensationalized, big letters across the front of their papers, house prices crashing. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. Nowhere. To add that, our business, when we looked at the numbers for 2023 versus 2022, and we took out any acquisitioned offices, our numbers had dramatically improved. We were going out to more market appraisals. We were listing more properties. We were selling more properties. We were achieving a better, asking price achieved. We were having to reduce less in order to, align with market expectation. Everything was leading to a much more positive market. I'm sure that if you were to ask any other estate agent, they'd probably say the same.
Yeah.
It wasn't the year the newspapers forecast. We've already had it this year as well.
Yeah.
Mortgage rates are tweaking up. So as soon as one of the mortgage rate lenders started putting their mortgages back up, the newspapers jumped on it. House prices are going to crash by 30% this year. We've added another 10% on, So, I don't like it, but I understand why they do it.
Yeah. But the old adage that never believe everything you read in the press stands, I would imagine.
Yes, indeed.
Excellent. So, James, you mentioned for sellers who are choosing an agent to beware of the false prophets. Are there any other tips that you would offer?
Yeah, look, one of the biggest things that people really should consider is length of contract. One of my bugbears. It's always these agents that go out and say, oh yeah, I've got 5 people that will buy this today. They pass you a piece of paper to sign, and on that piece of paper it says they're going to sign you in for 20 to 26 weeks. That's half a year. Why would you even need that if you've got 5 buyers that are going to buy your property?
That's a long time, isn't it?
It is. And unfortunately, it's very clear to those of us in the industry the goal of this. So going back to the false prophet, this is the person that said they will achieve you the highest possible price. They're probably the person that's valued normally 5, 10, 15% higher than everybody else. Okay. They then get you to sign a long contract, 20, 26 weeks, 16 weeks even. The goal of that isn't to achieve you the price they've told you. The price they've told you is to achieve the listing, which is why at the very start I referenced number one listing agent. Over the course of those 26 weeks, as a client, their stress levels, their urgency to sell gets greater and greater and greater. And over that period of time, that agent will suggest realignment of prices. Well, look, we haven't had the response we were hoping. I think we need to reduce the price. And before you know it, you're probably either down at the price the other agents suggested, or maybe even lower, because your property, when it's marketed, loses momentum. Most properties get their maximum amount of attention within the first 2 to 3 weeks. That's when you get most of your viewings. At that point, everybody that's looking when you launch is aware of your property. After that, it's only people that start looking that become aware of your property. So your marketing pool becomes a lot smaller. So yeah, be careful of long contracts. I mean, for us, we consciously elected to have a 0-week contract. That means any of our clients, if we don't deliver what we promise, or they're not satisfied with our service in any way, they can turn around and say, do you know what? We're not going to sell through you.
Yeah.
They don't get the response, well, I'm really sorry, but you see this piece of paper you signed 18 weeks ago, you've still got 8 weeks left to run, which is 2 months. It's a more fair way of treating our clients.
Yeah.
And hopefully at some point, all estate agents will run a 0-week contract. And, if you do a 0-week contract, in my belief is you're more confident in the price that you've said you can achieve. You're not going to overinflate it. There's no point because the client can bin you.
Yeah.
You're going to throw everything at it because at any moment the client could remove you from the sale. So, and the team will hand, the best customer service experience possible because they don't want to upset you.
Yeah.
You look at the opposite, 26 weeks, and after time, you'll probably disappear off into the ether, and you probably don't hear from your agent. I've worked in agencies where, I've gone to phone a client to tell them they've got a viewing. This was 10, 15 years ago. Great news, I've got a viewing for you. The response was, am I still on the market?
Oh my goodness.
That's how often they haven't been spoken to because they'd signed such a long contract.
Yeah.
So thankfully I was only a neg at the time. I wasn't the lister.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right. Good advice there. Good advice. Well, James, it's been really lovely to have a chat with you today and talk everything residential sales. Thank you very much for joining us. And lovely to have you again with us today. See you on the next show.